Hey, what's up, beautiful friends? I'm coming to you from beautiful Toronto, Turtle Island, the meeting place, as it was known to the natives and is known. Um, it was Thanksgiving's yesterday in America. Um, I always say twofold, an opportunity to focus on all the things that we're grateful for, genuinely grateful for, and as well, why does it have to be either or? And an opportunity to uh, remember the original peoples of the land that we're on. Um, just because someone decided this is how to celebrate doesn't mean it can't be tweaked. Doesn't mean can't be into other things can't be integrated. Just a heads up, this is going to be a longer free form. I'm just going to flow and allow whatever wants to be shared. And I come to you with a peaceful energy, but also, yeah, lots going on in my emotional body. So, I'll start where I'm at now and go backwards. So, yesterday I watched the movie Killers of the Flower Moon, I believe it was called, or the Flower Moon. And it's Martin Scorsese. So, this is like highest level, one of the top level directors in Hollywood. Decides to release a movie that shows Native Americans being just like manipulated and killed and mind fucked and used and abused left and right throughout the movie. Interesting, right? That gets released during Thanksgivings, which there's a native movement to call it something different. I can't remember the name now, but there's a native awareness going on. Well, just aware people going, do I want to celebrate that? Do I not? Is it racist? Is it not? Side note, this is not about attacking people who celebrate it. And this is definitely not about guilt tripping the people who celebrate it. Because that's what I felt this movie was doing. I felt this movie, there's this undertone of like division. I can smell division, and that's not of light. There's not of that is not of love, because love unites. And this movie's basically re-instigating, just like a lot of BLM themed movies that Hollywood was questioned. Does Hollywood suddenly give a shit about black people? Is there a deeper purpose for these movies? Yeah, I love it. There's the guy jogging, just singing his heart out. So, does Martin Scorsese or Hollywood give a shit about Native American people? No, no. Do they have a deeper reason to create this? Yes. Whatever's opposing love doesn't profit when white people, Native people, Arabs, uh, all come together. They need you to look at someone and blame them, especially when truths are coming out about what happened. There's a lot of propaganda happening today. What's happening in the Middle East? There's like the truth, which requires you to do a little digging. And if you're stuck in a 9 to 5 and hustle and survival, who has the time? I'm very lucky. I've created a lifestyle for me where I have the time to spend researching and listening, and I've been doing that for many years now. And I feel like I've boxed myself in with my social media where I'm only sharing healing stuff and rap stuff. And there's this other side of me that just wants to talk about all this other stuff. And I feel this is my attempt at doing so because I keep getting more and more info, and it needs a channel to share. Now, heads up, almost all my social media is 5% of what it used to be. 5% reach, just the numbers, just clearly someone's not happy with my content. Like we live in an era where if a woman is shaking her ass and talking about women empowerment, that video will go viral. Well, it doesn't have to be shaking her ass, but there is a lot of that on social media, and it's not a put down. All for women empowerment, like genuine, true women empowerment. But it's like the algorithm is like what, again, I feel is weaponized. Okay, this is truthful. Let's reduce the amount of people that see this. This is going to help distract people, keep people stuck in their root chakras, lusty energies. Let's push that. Everyone I listen to, I can't see them anymore. I don't see them on YouTube anymore unless I type in their names and go and find them. But when I go to all my subscriptions to see what YouTube's going to show me, it's like, I don't know if this is real. So a lot of them have moved to other platforms like Rockfin and Odyssey. And if you haven't heard of those, definitely check them out because that's where the truth is right now. And that's where I'm going to be moving my stuff if I decide to continue creating content. So yeah, question these movies. I saw that Marvel had a new movie. I don't know if you guys are aware. Hollywood is creating movies. Like Hollywood has been, everything's been weaponized, and some of these movies are being used to either create propaganda and brainwashing, or the dark forces of the world needing you to consent to certain things. Because if you watch something and in your mind it's like, oh, this is just like a superhero movie or just a movie, but in that movie you're talking about killing half of humanity, and it's this weird thing. And if you research it, a lot of people are aware of this, is that it's their way of saying, hey, we told you guys. There's even a really cool video, again, you won't see it on YouTube, but it shows like 40 movies, 30 things on TV plus that show the demolition of the Twin Towers before it happened. So it's this weird thing they have where they try to avoid their karma by saying, we told you, and you didn't believe it because our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not real. So when it sees that, it's like, oh, that's real. And if we don't do anything about it, then they can just go, hey, we told you. This is really weird black magic, like reverse psychology things that are happening. And the other day I was listening to a podcast talking about missing children, and that we're not at the top of the food chain on planet Earth, and there are beings that are part human, part something else, that are feeding off of humanity. So yeah, it's important to know these hierarchies. It's important to know that research the soul recycling trap, that these archonic beings, these dark spirits that have been here for a long time, need humanity to not be awakened, and to stay feeding this reality with fear. And look at how many wars, like, look at the creation of America, like, how many wars how many years has it not been in wars? I think it was like 14 years or something like that, that it has not gone into war. So who profits from war? And this movie was interesting because it showed Robert De Niro's character um, as like a high level Freemason. He takes DiCaprio's character into a Masonic lodge, and it's this interesting character. And I'm wondering, are they putting out this as truth? Is there manipulation in them putting it out? But Robert De Niro's character is living amongst these Native Americans, and they're all wealthy because their land struck oil. And then one by one, this wealthy, super wealthy family that has tons of oil on their land, um, back in the days, um, one by one they're getting killed off. And De Niro's character is this like sly, manipulative. How can I kill out this family, and or have people that are in my family marry into their family so that I can have all of this money for myself. Very, very sly character, uh, and a high level Freemason. And it's, if you guys are not aware, like, almost every president was a Freemason. The creation of America was a Freemasonic idea. And so why are they going out of their way to show that the Freemasons, or this Freemasonic character, was kind of behind all of that? And they show a little bit of the Ku Klux Klan. Um, yeah, very interesting. So um, yeah, I recently came back from Europe. There's I've been talking about starting community for a very long time, and I've been led with one thing after another, and it's getting closer, I feel, but it's not feeling like it. So many things have happened in the past that didn't allow for that alignment to happen, and a part of me was looking at it as a failure. And just the other day I was like, thank you, universe, because you stopped me from the first opportunity where I was going to buy land in BC, but it would have been a nightmare because the owners were super controlling, and would have wanted to sell to me but also control it, and that would have been a nightmare. And then in Mexico, I almost moved in somewhere as well, and got blessed with that not happening, because the guy was just really not someone I would trust. And um, the vibes just felt really bad, and I'm glad I didn't do that. And then I went to Costa Rica, and like almost every community was basically a retreat center. uh, Plant medicine retreat center was more of the focus, and less of the focus was in the community, so those didn't align. Oh god. And so I have this mission. I'm intending to make it happen. And I also was listening to a podcast by Howdy, I forgot his name, but he's the one who wrote Exit the Cave, a book I highly recommend. And he has a channel, YouTube channel, and other platform channel. If you type in Exit the Cave, highly recommend his work, talking about how we're living in a matrix reality and all the movies that show that. So he talked about the movie Lost, talked about the movie, it's a series on Netflix called Happy Place, which I've been kind of skimming through to get some of the knowledge, the wisdom there. And it's this like devilish character who creates a false reality, a virtual reality, for people who go when they die. And it's called The Good Place. And they start realizing, wait a minute, this is not the good place. This is like the bad place. Because it seems to be beautiful and pretty and everything, but uh, they set them up with a soulmate. Like they go, your soulmate is this person. And they set it up on purpose to create conflict, because this guy feeds off of their conflict, which is like very telling of planet Earth. And this whole program, this like hilarious program of you do good, you go to heaven, you do bad, you go to hell. So I would say the most important thing that humanity, I would say, is important to focus on is these manipulative tricks. Because if right now someone guilt trips you, if you're allowing yourself to be guilt tripped, if you're allowing yourself to be manipulated here, what makes you think you will not be manipulated in the afterlife? So it's almost like if I was to create a workshop or a boot camp or a program, it would be on clearing guilt. Someone could be like, oh, you're just gonna do this to me? I'm following my heart, and my heart says this, yes, and you do it. But if you're like, guilt, if you're still running on the, kissing God's ass to go to heaven, to quote a Tupac lyric, if we're still being good, not from our hearts, only because we think that's gonna give us points that leads us to heaven, gotta break out of that program. If you're if you don't remember that you are, oh my god, there's this movie called The Nines, and it's kind of similar to Free Guy but different. Same character, Ryan Reynolds. Highly recommend watching it. Very interesting thing that happened with that movie is it was on YouTube for so many years. And I found it, and there's this website that lets you download YouTube movies. So I downloaded it on my computer, started watching it, and then just yesterday I was like, I need to finish it, and it stopped. Like the file just wouldn't play anymore on my computer. And when I went back to YouTube to find it, because that's where I originally found it, the whole movie, it's no longer there. But there was something else. There was like a lady's YouTube channel where she breaks down basically breaks down the science behind the movie, and it's just so deep. So if you guys get a chance to watch it, which was weird now because I'm like, where do you see movies that are not on YouTube, or you can't rent on YouTube, and are not on the other streaming platforms? Where do we go? And there's the character who's like the divinity, higher self manifested in a character who's like, remember who you are. Like, she's there to nudge him, and she seems like a bad character, but sometimes in life it's those people that you're like, I fucking hate this person. Why? Because they're mirroring a truth that your mind wants to ignore. It's like where the line "don't shoot the messenger" comes from. And I feel I feel Aries energy. I feel a lot of my energy is that. It's like, this is the truth. We got to be warriors about it. Can't dance around it. We just got to like ram through it. So, and the fire just brings out stuff, anything unresolved, just brings it out. I just came out of a relationship, and it was like, I'm like, I just had this similar pattern play out in my last my relationship before that, bringing up stuff, reminding them of unresolved past relationships, and just like, it's like I don't want to, It's like it's like giving someone ayahuasca and then just wanting to have peace. And it's like, I wish I could not be an energy that is ayahuasca energy, which brings up all your stuff, because sometimes I just want to have like a chill day. And sometimes with bringing up stuff, it's not going to be chill. Uh, okay, bouncing all over the place. The nines, remember who you are. So when you remember who you are, if you truly remember that you are a sovereign being, and someone says, "Oh, you need to go back to Earth because you need to learn more lessons," I need to. Like, if you truly remember you are a sovereign being, the concept of you have to, you need to, just doesn't work. So it's like in this hypothetical boot camp workshop program, mastering our sovereignty, like truly stepping into our sovereignty, not, we don't need a whole tribe of people to help with that. Exercising sovereignty in every moment. Hey, you have to do that. Oh yeah, why? Why do I have to do that? Guilt trips. Sorry, I'm not going to play that. Fear program. Oh, I want to say this truth, but I'm worried I'll lose my channel. That's the fear program. You know, what is the matrix? It's all these tactics that are there to control. And this guy, Howie, I forgot his last name, the guy who wrote the book Exit the Cave, was talking about there were Native Americans that were like, I will not go to the uh, residential schools. I'll die right here. And there were there are Palestinians that are like, I'm not going to flee my land. I will die right here. And there's many many heroes of our history that are like, I choose love. I will not give in to the fear program. And that's just really struck a chord with me. And he went into talking about how I'm not trying to run away. I'm not trying to survive. I am just wanting to be in a peaceful reality. Like, where can I go right now to experience the most amount of peace? It's kind of why I'm here right now. And I really started questioning that. I was like, do I want to create, like, buy land, grow food, and kind of intend to survive or thrive during the next few years? Why? What's the point? Do I want to stay in this virtual reality game? If so, it's really important to dive deep and go, why? This is like the last final part of the game where it gets the most intense, and the enemy is like the most aggressive, and then there's a really cool experience after all of that. So why? Like, why? Some people are like, I'm here to awaken humanity. Are you, though? Are are you here to awaken humanity? Like, there was a quote by a comedian that said, if you're trying to solve, if you're focusing, if you're trying to provide solutions, you're part of the problem. And what I take away from that is, if you're still trying to fix this reality, then the matrix might possibly have you. So it's almost like, not what you do, but where it's coming from. Is it coming from an expansive place of unattachment, or is it coming from an egoic, like, this is your role in the matrix? Like, even now, am I playing the role of the philosopher, the thinker, the free thinker person? So where are you coming from? And to be honest, a part of me is like, in this boot camp, that's the number one priority for humanity right now, is mastering death. And it's like, what are the things, if you knew you had a limited time on earth, what are the things that you truly need to do, want to do? So if that program is still running, of the guilt and manipulation and good and bad and heaven and hell, then one option is just to unsubscribe from that, just to really unsubscribe from that. I personally had unsubscribed from a lot of those matrix programs when I was on MDMA back in the days. I was 25, I think, feeling so controlled and so trapped on so many levels, especially mentally. And it was that song, I Want to Break Free by Queen. Oh, I want to break free, yeah. And then it was that was the start. And then I did 5 days of MDMA pills, one a day, and I just broke out of my mental prisons. And I remember writing, religion, break out of it; government, break out of it; parents, break out of it; culture, break out of it. And it's just breaking out of all of these things that were trapping me. And so if we master, so one option is unsubscribing from it, and that's how I did it. You figure out how to do your way. And again, it could be a program in a boot camp. I mean, I've got a program on my website called Breaking Free from the Matrix. That's basically that. And the other thing is, like, okay, if you're someone who's easier to manipulate and guilt trip, then clear those guilt trips, right? So I was talking to a friend about Landmark, even though it felt very culty and military vibes. Or the big takeaway was, in the first course that I took with them, it was like, who do you need to create resolution with? So that really feels like a priority. If you knew your time was running, what conversations do you need to have to clear your conscious? Who do you need to speak to clear your conscious? And I immediately spoke to my family one by one, and I said, I'm sorry that I held resentment. I'm sorry that I held anger. I'm sorry that I did this. Sorry that I wasn't a better brother. And, it's like ho'oponopono. There's a reason why that's a powerful process in Huna culture, Hawaiian healing culture. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. It's like clearing out all these, in an Indian called spirituality. It's called sankaras, I think. Sankaras. And they're like these little karmic energy bubbles in our field. And it's like when your higher self creates a reality for you where you're being triggered, there's an opportunity to it's like the triggers are inner bubbles of past trauma and emotions. And it's like things are speeding up so fast right now that the universe is bringing these opportunities for you more and more in order to break free from them, in order to take your power back from them. Sometimes I tell people life is a game of, it's a whole virtual reality game on, okay, if you've given away 80% of your power throughout this game of life, we're going to mirror to you situations, opportunities that are there to help you take your power back. And they might get more and more intense till you get the point and take your power back. And I feel like what's happening now collectively is like a huge collective version of that. All right, you guys don't want to take your power? Well, this is what not owning your power feels like. And there's a great book called Breaking Free from the Money Matrix. And it really, really beautifully describes life as a matrix reality and how, you know, how everything's mirroring to you what's going on within you as an opportunity for you to go, oh, this is how I give my power away, and this is what's being mirrored to me so I can take my power back. Unfortunately, if we miss the point, we create more karmic cycles and negative sankharas, these karmic bubbles. And so it's really important to have those mechanisms of the ego will probably create more negative sankharas, and the more time we spend doing practices like meditation, where you're observing your ego, you're observing your mind, the more we can do that, mindfulness, I feel, will allow us to observe the part of us that wants to get triggered and react, and gives us an opportunity to create a new pathway. Yeah. So everything going on with the Middle East, like it's like life is getting, how can we not question everything? Like, how can we not question 9/11? How could we not question the Iraq War? How could we not question the war in Afghanistan? How could we not question Vietnam? Like, is it not obvious? Like, Vietnam has opium, Afghanistan has opium, Iraq has oil. Like, are we not able to connect those dots and go, oh, okay, we're going into war because this country is a big corporation and wants to make money, and this is like high level making money. It's like a high level version of a gangster. If like in a city someone's growing weed in a house and a gangster goes, get out of this house, we're taking over this house. Like, that's a microcosm of what's happening on a macrocosm scale. Hey, Afghanistan, we're taking over these opium trade. And then who's buying it? There's an opioid epidemic. It's ending up in a lot of pharmaceuticals. It was JFK's anniversary, the death of JFK's anniversary recently, and there's a very, very, very powerful quote where he says, there are secret societies, people colluding behind the scenes, and that's a very powerful speech. And then he died very shortly after that. Was he trying to expose that? And who are these guys behind the scenes, right? People need to question, like, Jewish people in Israel need to go, who's behind the scenes? Because guess what? Politicians are just there as puppets. So the question becomes, who's the puppet master? And it's like, what I'm feeling is like weaponizing of, in war, so let's use the Iraq war, they sided with the minority to go against the majority. In Syria, they side with the minority to go against the majority. It's like in Russia, Ukraine, America sides with Ukraine to go against Russia. It's a war tactic. And what I'm witnessing is that playing out, except now it's playing out in North America. It's playing out in Canada. It's playing out in America. Let's use Black lives to create a movement to attack the majority. Because Black people in America are not a majority right now. I read a stat that in the future everyone's going to be part Hispanic. That's hilarious. It's hilarious because people are trying to like keep them out, and it's like everyone's going to be that at some point in America, at least. So I lost my train of thought. So Black Lives Matter. Excuse me. Black Lives Matter has been weaponized to go against the regular person. So if you're a white person in America and you're scared to be yourself, that's spiritual war. That's a warfare. That's a tactic. If you watch this movie, the Martin Scorsese movie, and you're feeling guilty about just feeling guilty and lowering your energy, that's a tactic. So I feel like they're using the Black Lives movement weaponized against the population. Tupac had this quote where it's like, America keeps sending they keep like going to these other countries, and all the guns are pointing outside, and then it's like he was saying, what are you going to do when all the guns are pointed towards its own citizens? And he said this back then. Hey, buddy. This is dog just coming by. And that's what's happened. It's like they're turned now. The regular civilians are the actual enemy. So these guys, they'll, research who was behind Nazi Germany, research who was behind the creation of Israel, research and see how those are all connected, and how these people behind the scenes don't give a shit about Jews. Will use Jews for their own means. Don't give a shit about Palestinians, So if only we were aware of that, if only we had that much awareness that this becomes common knowledge, and it's there. Like, if you guys are not following the truth, like, check out Forbidden Knowledge News podcast. They had a great guy on there talking about it recently, and Higher Side Chats is a great podcast. So you're not going to hear this in the news. And even some alternative news places I had to unsubscribe from because they were still part of the propaganda. Um, and there in those in the truth movement, in conspiracy realists, not conspiracy theorists, but conspiracy realists, like in that realm, in that world, it's common. It's common knowledge. And if we knew that, then it wouldn't be us against them. This divide wouldn't happen, because what does someone do? What does a narcissistic, abusive person do when they realize, oh shit, like I'm about to get found out? It's like, no, you're being racist. No, you're anti-Semite. No, you're this. Like, as soon as you bring up something to a narcissistic abuser, like, they'll find a way to make it about you. They'll criticize you. They'll try to guilt trip you. Instead of going, yeah, maybe I do have that. So that's, again, a microcosm of what's happening in a macrocosm level with Israel. And then not a lot of people talk about this, but this came and went. And it's like Epstein. Are you guys not aware that Epstein, the whole Epstein thing was just the tip of the iceberg? And what that was a tool to have as much power as was needed, and how this guy, I don't know if he was in the documentary, if they said he was Mossad, which is the secret service, like the CIA of Israel. I think they were saying he was an agent of that, but like double check that, please. But basically his whole empire, which involved younger, elite, like below the legal age, doing also sexual stuff, and he had all these high-level politicians. He had them by the balls, and it's the oldest tactic. And I think there's even in the Godfather trilogy, there's a scene where the mafia bring in this politician and have the politician all drunk, and then they have someone, a younger prostitute or something, dead on his bed. So, and they have footage of, so that's how the mafia does it, is like they'll wait for you to slip, and they'll have compromising footage of you, and they'll just use that against you. So you've got all those people. You've got Epstein with all these high-level people from the UK, high-level government, to America, Bill Clinton, and all these people. So if this secret agent is using, it has footage, compromising footage of all these high-level politicians, best believe they have America by the balls. So best believe that these presidents are going to do everything they're told to do. So continue to send us billions of dollars, okay? And now we're being attacked by this organization. Send us more billions of dollars, okay? It's like, don't Americans question? Wait a minute. Why do we have to do that? Well, find out the answer. Why? Why does Israel have America by the balls? Why does it do whatever it tells them to do? And like, question why does America suddenly care about Ukraine? Do they care about Ukraine, or are they using Ukraine? And then research all these deaths that happen over the years. Like, we're talking about behind the scenes. These are like high level, I don't know what kind of demons they worship, what kind of gods they worship, but it definitely involves a lot of sacrifice. And on a, again, microcosm versus macrocosm. Microcosm sacrifice, you're beginner, you're joining some kind of uh, I don't know, satanic or some kind of like cult, and you want to gain power in this cult. Uh, they'll be like, "Hey, bring your pet." There's a video footage of what's her name? Brad Pitt's ex-wife, Angelina Jolie, and she's like, "Yeah, I went to this like Hollywood thing, and we all got together, and they asked us to bring, like a pet, and I sacrificed my pet, which was her pet snake." And it's like, let's say that's entry level. That's like entry level, whatever you want to call it, Satanism, called working with demons. So you sacrifice this um, pet on like the entry level version, and then you give that energy and life force to an entity, and in exchange that entity grants you to become higher up in Hollywood, let's say in Angelina Jolie's example. This is in gang culture, it's in secret societies. um, it's in so like question all these world wars. Napoleon, the movie's coming out soon, and there's this famous Freemasonic uh, thing. If you put your hand like that in your pocket, it's like hidden hand. It's a symbol of being a Freemason, and it's like even Napoleon has pictures like that, and all these people in history. And it's like when you watch that movie about the natives, the Flower Moon one, um, you just see like this guy's ruthless, like no, just like complete power hungry, complete manipulative, pure evil, just bringing fucking darkness, and like anyone in the town everyone's being used and being compromised, and like just like corrupting everyone around them and bribing them and killing and manipulating and cheating and mind fucking. And it's just like, what if there is a group that's going around doing that to society? And that's why it's important to have, what do you come back to, what grounds you in your spiritual warriorness. But again, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, so the sacrifice. So small level, right? Angelina Jolie joins this like Hollywood cult, sacrifices her snake, and then she gets to move up. And the tricky thing when you work with these things is, once you give, this energy is going to want more and more and more and more. And it's like a mafia, right? If you tell the mafia, okay, I'll give you 5% of my business, then you come back and say I want 10. Then they're gonna come back and say I want 20. And come back and say I want 100%. Then come back and say I want your children. I want to start prostituting your children. I want to start fucking your wife. Like, it's harsh, but like that's the mindset. It's never enough. It just takes. And that's why you see in Leonardo DiCaprio's character, who's like the nephew of Robert De Niro, the high-level Freemason, who's telling him to marry this native woman. You see at one point he starts putting poison in her insulin because she has diabetes. And at one point you see that his like, oh my God, like I've just done so many bad things. I just want to, that his out was to take the poison himself. Is like, fuck, like I got, manipulated to do all this bad stuff, and I just feel so shitty, and I just want to kill myself. So this corrupt program, right? This, some people talk about it as like a virus in the matrix. It's like a corruption program. It's corrupt. It's in our matrix, and it's corrupting others. It's spreading like a virus, corrupting our souls, corrupting our minds. And there are, if religion truly was understood for what it was there for, it would truly liberate us. It would truly create spiritual warriors all over the world. But I feel like they just give us like the surface, and it's up to us to go deeper and not fall for the traps. So yeah, macrocosm is countries on a high level. There's multi layers to going to war, and so on, let's say on one level, America the corporation, Vietnam, Afghanistan, that's opium, that's a shitload of money. So best believe they find a way to profit from all of that. There's another question is called who's profiting from all the weapons? That's another scheme within a scheme. So who's profiting from selling all the weapons? Which organization is making all that money every time countries go to war? And best believe there are people behind the scenes who are funding both politicians, like both sides of the political game, and are funding both sides of the war when countries have been going to war. Because guess what? They're like, we don't care. We make money every time there's war. And like, same thing with what happened with the vax and COVID and all that. It's like, who profited? Like the biggest money grab in history happened before our eyes because we were distracted and we were in fear. So while we were like COVID anti-vax, vax on anti-vax, COVID anti, while we were stuck in that division, these guys were taking up farms, taking up businesses, getting rid of the middle class. So best believe now, when everyone's like pro-Palestine, anti, pro this, anti that, best believe there's a grab happening. And I've seen it, guys. I follow some stuff on Instagram, and I was like, why is the Palestinian movement shut it down for Gaza? I was like, is this a version of how they use Black Lives Matter to do their bidding? You know, when there were black businesses that were getting destroyed during the Black Lives Matter thing, there, I saw a video where this lady's like I'm African American, and the supposed BLM came in and destroyed my store. So it's like, we have to learn, like, how was that hijacked, or how was that created? Who is funding it? What is their intention? How are they using it towards their advantage? Because when you realize that, you'll realize, because I'm also seeing the Palestinian thing now, like they're it's like shutting down places. Like the powers that be want to create chaos, and they want to destroy businesses as they did during the lockdowns, and they want to, tons of people went out of business, tons of people, it was such a terrible attack. And no one can go, oh, this is a conspiracy, this is the government, people were like, we can't blame the government, it's a virus that came, you can't blame viruses, they just happen. Yet you go watch the movie 12 Monkeys, and it's literally that. It's a mad scientist wanting to wipe out a bunch of people on the planet, and these high level um, scientists and everything, and it's like it's all there. It was predictive programming. It was already, it's already, there's several movies that already um, showed us this reality of what happened before it happened, because these guys planned way ahead of time. And I was like Bill Gates, like all these characters, they're not there by coincidence. They're groomed at a very young age to be in these positions. And Bill Gates said when he was a kid, his parents were talking to him about eugenics. And this guy on the podcast today was saying how eugenics, like superior race and wiping out the lesser race, um, is connected to Zionism, which is very interesting because Zionism's hiding behind Israel, behind Judaism, but yet that's the same mentality that was hiding behind Nazi Germany. So that's very interesting. The same mindset that said Jews are lesser than, we should wipe them all out, is the same mindset that is saying Palestinians are lesser than, Muslims are lesser than, we need to wipe them out. And one thing no one talks about is about the dark side of the Talmudic principles, where not only do they see others as lesser than, but to the point that they're like, it's okay to kill them. Like in text, supposed sacred texts. I'm not talking about Judaism, I'm talking about the Talmud, and I've researched it, and there's some really messed up texts there. And I know I have followers from all practices, and I remember posting it saying, hey, for all my Jewish friends, like, curious to know, did you guys know about the Talmud? And I had like two, three of them go, yeah, I'm, reading it with my rabbi, and it's like, I'm curious to know when they get to the part that says it's okay to kill, rape your enemy. Like, we need to all pause right now and just go into these texts and go, how is this okay? Confirm that it's there, and confirm that, and then realize who's behind Israel, because in the podcast I was listening today, they were talking about the Talmudic Tigers. It was like a terrorist organization when Israel was forming, and all the terrible things that they would do, and how they were the ruling government then, and how things haven't changed. Like, that same mindset is running shit behind the scenes. So I feel if you truly expose this and ask all humanity and all the people in Israel, all the people in Palestine, I'm pretty sure when you call it out and you're like, we're not okay with that, that there will be a lot of unity. There'll be a lot of people all over the world, there'll be people in Israel, people in Palestine, holding hands in solidarity, in unity, against injustice and evil. And it needs to be called out because it's hiding. It's hiding. It's like a wolf in sheep clothing, hiding amongst the sheep. And I know, I wish I envy those people who are very like factual and can back everything up. And I wish I had, I want to work that muscle to be better at it. But I'm more of the big picture dot connector, and it's like all these puzzle pieces in my mind are all I can see. When you reach a point when you're, for those of you who've ever done a puzzle in your life, but it's like you get to the point where you can kind of see what the whole puzzle looks like because you've had enough pieces. You might not have all the pieces of the puzzle, but you've put enough that you're like, oh, this is a forest, this is a waterfall. You can kind of see it. I feel like that's what I do, and I've been doing for 15 years now, almost full time, unpaid. So there's so many pieces that I have. For me to say all the pieces is 15 years worth of information. And I wish I could dress in a suit and speak more confidently like people on the news do so that you believe what I'm saying. But that doesn't feel authentic to me. And so I question, shut it down for Gaza, seeing all these movements, like the Palestinian movement now. Best believe best believe they wanted to create something out of it, right? Because it's always something. Vaxxers, anti-vaxxers, COVID, conspiracy people, the Trump supporters, anti-Trump. Now it's like Palestine supporters, anti-Israel. And it's another tactic. I swear to you, it's just on a bigger level. And best believe that these guys have an agenda to create another world war. And best believe that they're provoking it. And so, in conclusion, I would say my biggest takeaway from all these podcasts is that there's this great documentary about Haiti. I think it's like 1840 something. It's like a very special year in Haiti, the Haitian Revolution, and it's so great because it shows you why was it unable to be conquered back in the days by France and England? And they talk about how they had such a strong religious, spiritual, such a strong spiritual, so strong in their spirit and their spirituality that they didn't fear death. And because they didn't fear death, they were able to defeat these two empires, like these two strong superpowers. And that's a huge takeaway for me, is like, or like the natives that say, you can kill us now, but we'll come back as your children. Like, just having that, it's okay if I exit this reality. So, in conclusion, find out about the soul recycling trap. Prepare yourself. There's something called false light. Everyone's going to the false light. And when you go into the false light, you do a whole life review. These shape-shifting beings know, if you believe in Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha or like aliens, they'll use whatever you believe in and they'll portray that. They'll shapeshift into that. And they'll do this whole life review and try to guilt trip you. And there's even a famous episode on Star Trek where this guy shapeshifts into the lady's father. She's dead. She's on the other side. And he's like, you must go back into this reality and continue what. And she's like, wait a minute. You're not my father. My father never told me what to do. My father always wanted me to make my own decisions. You're not my dad. You're whatever she called him. And then he's like, yes, you found out this time, but best believe I will be feeding off of you in the next lifetime and will continue to feed off of you as I have been all these lifetimes. And like, it's like, how do you disconnect from, how do you not feed entities? How do we not, that's when my light body in the Breaking Free from the Matrix, it's the light body activation. I created that as like one of the most powerful solutions for humanity. So how do we not feed entities? How do we cut cords with any energies that are feeding off of us? How do we override these matrix programs? How do we choose love above everything? And how do we plan so that when our time comes and we're on the other side, that we don't go into the false light, but we go into, it's almost like people say they all look forward and there's this false mesmerizing light that feels like super loving, and what they're needing to do is look the other way. That's part of the trap. So how do we do that? Do we come together as a society and practice like astral traveling? There's tons of people who research There's a lot of research into what happens in the afterlife. Um, and you can literally see how people are being manipulated through that, because some come back and they're terrified, and they don't talk a lot about those that come back and they're like, oh my god, like this is all a fucking trap. It's a farm to harvest our, they call it loosh, our energy. And there's a great movie called Sausage Party, and it's like everyone's like, yay, we're going to the to the other side. So it's written from the perspective of all the produce in a grocery store, which is a metaphor for humanity. We're all food, and the humans are like these evil gods who take these foods and like cook them up and boil them and kill them and eat them. And it's like all the products in the store are like, oh my god, when those doors open, it's like the afterlife, the light, the light on the other side. And they're all brainwashed to believe like that's paradise. And then there's this one character that realizes what it actually is and is like, oh my god, it's terrible, the gods, they eat us on the other side, it's not what we were told. And it's like those people will be the crazy ones. So there have been some people who come back from these near-death experiences and they're like, it's not what you think it is. And those are the troublemakers. Those are the kids in class who, were the troublemakers in class, and they're troublemakers right now, truth tellers and provoking people, and hopefully we continue to be troublemakers in the after reality. But not even troublemakers in the after reality, but we just break the cycle. If there's false light, how can we get people to either psychically let us know what's happening? Like, how can we, as a society, humanity, come together and almost have like, okay, guys, so 99% of people have said this is what happens in the afterlife. Let's like draw it. Let's have images of it, and let's figure out. Okay, here's the false light. These are the traps, and here's the way to exit. So that needs to happen. That's our number one. I feel like it's the most important thing. And yeah, God bless everyone who chooses to keep coming back and falling for different traps, and bless those souls that chose not to come back. And there's a difference between souls that are like, you know what, I know this is a virtual reality, and I'm choosing to come back. And then and then it's okay for those souls who are like, I know it's a virtual reality and I'm done with it. But it's not okay to continuously get manipulated and guilt tripped and whatever tactics they can to get us coming back. It's not okay. And it's been happening over and over, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And like you'll see in the movie, in this show, Happy Place, that the guy gets better and better at manipulating them. He gets better and better at extracting more and more energy from them. So how can we get better and better at not feeding them? How can we get better and better at breaking through these programs? All right, guys, 108. I'll leave you with that. Let me know in the comments what you thought and if you want more videos like this.